I'm Alex Pearce. I'm going to be talking about using SharePoint 2010 training and education. So I'm Alex Pearce. I'm a SharePoint MVP. I work for Redstone. Redstone are a Pearce-Using company with about 5 or 6 different divisions. They do managed services. They build data centers for banks. They do cabling infrastructure. We also have an education division, which is the I4E division, which stands for Innovation for Education. I also blog at learninggateway.net/blogs/AJP. Speak a lot about SharePoint, but I'm very much of an education. I work within schools and talk about how we can use SharePoint from an education point of view. My email address is there, my Twitter account. I'm a big Twitter user, I like my Twitter. I'm also the founder of the Learning Gateway user group, which is where I blog. Hopefully we'll be opening up to some forums. That site will be moving to SharePoint 2010 soon, away from community server. And I'm also the co-founder of the Learning Gateway Conference, and I'm going to do a quick pitch now for anybody who's also on the camera as well as here. 14th of July, just over the road from here. It's all about SharePoint in education and uses of that from a school point of view. So we're going to look at today, I've got a bit of an introduction. We're going to look at learning management systems and how they can be incorporated. I've got a demo from 2007 as well as using Moodle from within SharePoint 2010. Looking at how we use acronyms, but also we've got Microsoft OneNote and how we can use that maybe within SharePoint 2010 in the architecture of the file systems. But first I'm going to start off with Hooper and Ryder's series. Anybody here heard of this before? No. So this is actually a teacher's methodology. These two guys sat down and they came up with this 5-step process of teaching in a classroom. How kids and teachers actually start off with being familiarised and utilise, integrate, all the way up to they're actually fully evolutional within the product. And I thought evolution kind of fitted quite well in with the conference name as well. But we'll go through each one of these. So familiarisation. We've got a new employee within the school, within the business. They don't know the IT systems. They're going to need a bit of training. They're really you want to get them all the way up so they're actually working as fast as they can. It's actually going on. So when they first start, they're in this familiarisation mode. The employees become increasingly aware of their role and may have attended summer training sessions, but often reluctantly try to use it in their daily workspace. Anybody got people still in their organisations like that? A few hands go up. Good. Next one, utilisation. An employee becomes increasingly aware of the benefits of technology and begins to incorporate into their everyday working process. Only problem is they lose confidence if the IT system goes down. Anybody got like that? A few more nods of the heads going this time. I think a good example of this is that maybe they start using Office Communication Server, all of a sudden it goes down, well, I'll just go and talk to them instead. Lost confidence in the IT system. The process it's actually supposed to make them be there, supposed to make the things quicker, so they can get their job done quickly, but they lose confidence in that system itself. OCS, by the way, is Office Communicating, Instant Communications, if you've never heard of it before. Integration. An employee is becoming increasingly familiar with with appropriate use of IT and can integrate it into many aspects of their ongoing job. They start communicating, they can use OCS, the systems are there, they're high availability, so they can always do what they need to be able to do. But also at the same time, because they're talking to people on OCS, they're communicating, they're sharing documents on the SharePoint environment, so is everybody else. It kind of starts benefiting the whole team. Next one. We have the potential of IT is now exploited to move into new areas and approaches that can not easily be replicated, but more traditional means. So they're actually going, well, hang on a minute. That IT is pretty good. How can I use it a bit more effectively with my work? So they're actually taking it themselves and they're actually starting, you know what, I'm going to use something like OneNote for my note-taking. We'll take on to that. Then we've got evolution. The development and creativity, I can't talk today, I do apologise. Development and creative possibilities of the IT are being fully exploited. IT use can grow and develop in the response to the need of the employee and the content implications. I can't speak at all. We want everybody to be in that set. We want everybody thinking out the box. We want everybody moving forward. We want everybody integrated and involved in the company. That's when you can start seeing more productivity from a team, from an individual, from an organisation. hopefully as IT people ourselves, we're actually in this kind of process. We're coming up with ideas. We're turning around to the development team and we're saying, "Oi, I want to be able to do this. This is really going to help me. It's going to help my team as well." So I said I'm going to start off with learning management systems. A few ideas how we can go forward, and I've got a couple of demos on learning management systems. So what is a learning management system? The idea is that it's actually a way of being able to track and report based on training material. So we're all here today. We're all here sat in a session. Normal style classroom, you would see nice whiteboard, chalkboard maybe. It might have been back in your days. At the end of the day, slides are boring. Anybody agree with that? Death by PowerPoints happens all the time, which is why I'm glad I've got about 6, 7 video demos and a video as well, just to break it up a little bit. So, anybody heard of Moodle? Sharepoint learning kits. We've got blackboards. I found a few on the other. Joomla, Design to Learn, Sum Total. There's another one on there I couldn't find a logo for it. Sharepoint learning kit. It's a community based on Coplex. Anybody not heard of any of those? That's a good sign. No hands. So, first demo I was going to show you is very quickly is what Sharepoint Learning Kit is. It is actually based on 2007. Has anybody not seen Sharepoint Learning Kit? It's a few hands. That's good. Before I go into it I'm not going to go into it too deep dive. Richard Willis is speaking on it for a whole session tomorrow for an hour. He can show you a lot more features of what it has. The idea of this product, it actually can just do single signing of documents. There is an add-on to it, but unfortunately there's 1 or 2 glitches with it, which doesn't mean it works. So, first demo. So here's my SharePoint 2007, and what we actually have is we have our course list. So I log on as a user and I can see the courses that I've got to do today, this week, and any that have actually been returned. So I've actually got one here that's already been assigned, and I've actually assigned it to myself. And I can go on here, start this quiz up, and so resume. And here's my quiz, here's my questions. How many times have England won the World Cup? Well, I'm an Englishman, so I know it's once. 100%. Next question. Where is the 2010 World Cup? Well, I'm going to tend to get it wrong, and it tells me I've got it wrong. Pretty simple, really. I'll save and close that. It will go back to the teacher. So, what I've actually got is I've actually got 2 files here. Has anybody heard of SCORM before? There's a few hands. SCORM is an object model to be able to package files and web pages together. It also has metadata based around it so you can find information quickly. But what it is, effectively, it's a zip file. And you can open up the zip file and you'll see all the content in there, but it's got quizzes, it's got documents, all sorts in there. I've seen files ranging from 10K up to 100 meg. Of course, if you're loading that to your SharePoint, it's going to become a bit of an issue. So bearing those kind of mind if you're a school and you're looking to buy content. So what I've got here is I've got a solitaire quiz, and I'm going to just do my drop down, and I've got e-learning actions. What this is going to do, take the zip file, because if I just click on the zip file, it's going to try and download it. That's no good. I want to be able to open it up within our web page. So if I go to drop down here, I go to e-learning actions, I get an option. So I can either assign it to myself, that I have here, I can assign it to the current site that I'm on, or I've actually got my SharePoint training team site here. So I'm going to click on my training team site. I can decide how many points are available, what time it wants to go out. So maybe you've got a new member of staff who started. This is the introductory, just a PowerPoint presentation. It could be a Word document if you really wanted it to be. I'm going to assign it to them on the day they started. They've got to do it by the end of the day, and it all comes back to you. Who I'm going to assign it to is just available here. So I've got a whole bunch of, I've got students in here as I've got a demo school set up. I'm going to assign that to all of those, and they can start it straight away. So I'm just going to jump over as a student, assign as a different user. I use film stars as demo usernames. So my head teacher for my school is Staff Pacino, for Al Pacino. I've got my few students is Megan Fox. I like Megan Fox, so she's a student. There's a couple of others there. Oh, it didn't work. That's the wrong username, that's why. student Megan. I've got Daniel Craig. His boss is M, of course. She's a deputy head, and he's in a. That's not worked. That's a surprise. I know why it's not worked. Bear with me 2 seconds. I do apologise. First demo to go wrong is always a good sign. Let me add the web part in there. Assignment list web part. Save. There we go. Sorry about that. So what we can see, I've now logged in as my student. I'm logged in as student Megan, as you can see there in the top right-hand corner. And I've actually got a list here of all my assignments that I've got to do. And here we go from the training team site. And I've got that basic solitaire. I mean, remember the product was called, the actual file was called solitaire. So it's gone in, searched in the that metadata that's stored within the zip file, and actually found the assignment's actually called the basics of solitaire. So I'm a user. I click here. I click on the sign. I begin this off, and here we go. Here's our little quiz. And this quiz is quite good because it gives you the answers as you're going through. So I can actually go through here, bit of information, bit of sound, and a quick check. Have you learnt what you're supposed to do? So here are the answers, just to the right. So I'm actually going to put a wrong one in here. This one's red. This one's black. Check answers. Incorrect. Incorrect. What did I do wrong there? Next one. So all of a sudden you could say how many, you see, you want them to learn the business. Maybe they're a salesperson, like how many people are here who know about this product. Maybe you could do it as part of your initiation or initiation of joining a company. It's not quite like that. Maybe it's more along the lines of the training need. Maybe you're going to test them before you do an interview to see their kind of competency or the level. And we can store this here. That's 3. That's false. Let's keep those as they are. And next quiz. Last one, 7, true. I'm sorry, this one's a little long. I have to remember this answer. There we go. Check. And I'm just going to submit this, and what it's going to do is actually going to send it back to the person who I assigned it to. So let's close that. I can see it's been submitted. I'll go back to the home page, log in as my SharePoint user. And it's not there. Again. I know why, wrong username. All this SP 2007, SharePoint 2010. It's going well. Should have done that in the first place. Returned assignments. It's not there. I do apologise. It should come up and tell me here that someone's marked it, and I can actually see what's actually going on. I do apologise. I don't know why that is. See if it's here. There we go. Actually, it has worked. Gone to the wrong area. So submitted. I've got one person who submitted out of the 8 people who we assigned it to. I can click on the solitaire, and I can see that the mark that they got was 66.6666 recurring. Just here. And I can send any comments back saying, well done, you're fired. Return that to them, depending on obviously how good they actually really are. And as the other ones start coming in. So maybe it's a training mechanism. We want to get them into that evolutional state as quickly as we possibly can as we go along. So as I said, Richard's far good at, he'll have his demos working for tomorrow, I'm sure. So there's a good chance his will go right. My second demo is on Moodle. Has anybody used Moodle before? A few hands again. Anybody heard of Moodle before? So Moodle is another learning-based management system. It's always kind of here, there. Not many people are really sure about it. The main reason is because there's no company have actually written it. It's all been out open source, similar to all sorts of the things we can get from Clopex kind of thing. It's PHP based. It's normally installed on Linux, Apache, MySQL, and obviously PHP. So it's not Microsoft at all. It's very anti-Microsoft, and that's just how it is, and that's how they like to keep it. But it basically uses a document folder to be able to store the courses, the course material. So what I have here is I actually have my Moodle. I have to admit, I didn't quite get it working on IIS, Microsoft SQL, or IIS. Unfortunately, there's a bug, and I'm waiting for a hotfix from Microsoft. But this is still working on Apache, and it writes to SharePoint. So this is my Moodle site. I've got 3 available courses here. Sharepoint Training, as you can see, I've got a bit of an introduction to the course. Maybe it's introduction to Moodle. As a SharePoint Training, so what I can do is I can click on this here. It's going to ask me to log in. We can set this up so it looks at Active Directory, so they get single sign-on. And it's gone really slow. I think the demo devils are on at me today. It's gone very slow. Ooh, that's a new error message. I do apologise. Let's just stop Moodle and we'll start it again. And I wondered if this session was going to be too short. It's definitely not going to be short now. Right, let's see what happens now. But can I just say it was working all earlier on. And I purposely didn't shut anything down because I thought if I shut it down it's going to stop working. And you spend hours trying to get a demo to work, and it doesn't want to work when you need it to. Perfect. No, it's not going to work. I do apologise. The idea is it's actually a course building tool. So you can actually have, as you saw, we had single files that were actually deployed at the time within SharePoint Learning Kit. This we can actually build up as an actual structure as we actually go along. So like week 1, they might learn about web parts. Week 2, they'll learn about publishing and version controlling in the next week. Or it could just be an actual course as we actually go down. I'm just hoping nothing else has crashed. Because if my SharePoint 2010's crashed, then that's no good at all. What have we got next? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to restart this machine and we'll see how that goes. So the next bit I was going to talk about was acronyms, just while this is sorting out. Anybody using acronyms? Sorry.
What's the difference between Moodle and SharePoint Learning Kit?
Completely separate products. One is uses SharePoint, it uses all the features within SharePoint with version controlling and that kind of thing. Moodle is completely in its own element. It's the way we've got it integrating is so the documents within Moodle, when they're uploaded into the course material, actually now saves them into a document library within SharePoint. So those files can then be actually searched problem has always been in before, has been, well, you've got your files and you've got your training material, but they can never be searched by anybody. So you can actually then start linking them into your tagging structure and that kind of thing. That machine's just restarting, so fingers crossed I can get that working again. Acronyms, we all use acronyms every day. We've used SPEVO on Twitter as a short acronym. Has anybody here never used an acronym before? I think we all use an acronym at all. Here's some that I actually use. These are some of them from my workplace, some of them are my hobbies. For example, we've got AVFC, Aston Villa Football Club, of course. I've just thought I'd better put Man United in there as well. We've got MOS, which of course is now gone from a SharePoint 2010 point of view. We've got SLK, short for SharePoint Learning Kit. Got quite a few in there. Got BBC, of course, British Broadcasting Corporation. And I thought what we'll do is we'll have a bit of a quiz. Let's log this one on. Here's some of them actually. There we go. SLK, SharePoint Learning Kit. Learning Management Systems known as LMS. I work on Building Schools for the Future, BSF. LOL, Laugh Out Loud. Of course, we use that one quite a lot. I have to admit, until I actually put this together, IMOH, I actually thought it was in my honest opinion, not my humble opinion. There we go. I'm not the only one. That's a good sign. So, I've got a bit of a quiz. What does ATM stand for? Yeah, that one's quite easy. Next one is, what does JPEG stand for? Yes. And my last one is, what does radar stand for? Because I bet you not many people actually realise it's an acronym. Sorry? Almost. Almost. Not quite range, it's ranging. But not many people really know that radar actually stands for anything. So if you're in an organisation, all of a sudden you've got a bit of an issue. If you've got an acronym that isn't necessarily your actual initials of a set of words. Of course, so radar is actually put together of RA from radio. Right, I think I've got my machine almost sorted up again. Does anybody have many acronyms like that in their organisation? Where? Too many. That's the problem. How are we going to train our staff straight away so they can get on? They go into a meeting and someone goes, well, BSF this, which you've got to make sure we've got our KPI with this, and we've got our CTP that fits this. And of course, we've got our RM, which I was like, well, hang on a minute. What's going on? Now, I personally, I work in, as I said, schools and education. If I say RM, people think of our competitor research machines. You think, some people will say RM, they will think of risk management. So what does your RM stand for? What does their RM stand for? So we've got to make sure that everybody understands and they're on the same common ground to get them on board straight away. And SharePoint can help us facilitating that in some ways. My SharePoint Moodle is almost working again now. Just test that. So, it's almost there, which is a good sign. Next slide. I've actually got a demo based on acronyms, but I can't do that until my machine's back up, which we are almost there. So, where do we normally store our acronyms? Does anybody here store their acronyms in a weird, strange place for staff to use? SharePoint. Good, that's what I want here. How about, does anybody actually have an acronym store at all? Some people do. One hand at the back. Here's all my acronyms. I actually store them. I've just actually just put them into a spreadsheet very quickly. I store them in Onenote. So here's my Onenote session just here. And if I do a search for acronyms, there's all my terms. Because the idea is that I can actually go in here. Someone says to me, tell me what SPA means. I can type SPA and it tells me straight away. So it's quite easy for me to find. I have multiple machines that I keep my OneNote on. It's easy for me to find. You could argue they can go into a SharePoint library, SharePoint list, sorry, which, if we go just here. So here's my Sharepoint 2010 site. I've got my acronyms. And there's my acronym list actually stored there. So it's easy, and I can search for Birmingham City Council, BCC, where it might be. So simple ways to do it. But one of the things that we've talked about, I don't know if anyone was in the session earlier on with Craig here when he talked about metadata structure, metadata and content types. What we actually have is we have our content store, our tag store, which is all here. So this is some of the back end of SharePoint. If you haven't seen it, with SharePoint 2010. What I've actually got here is I've got my school name. What I've actually done is put a new category here of SP Evo, and I've actually typed in all those different ones that we saw earlier on the slide deck. We go down, we can see them. And it's great when we add a document, I can start typing building schools for the future as a tag. That is incredibly long for a document. Let me pop over to my client and show you that. So let's upload a document. The demo guards are definitely on me today because this is running really slow. They are definitely on my... That never happens. It's a new one for me, that is. Great. Here we go. So I have my managed keywords. We've mentioned we've got British broadcasting. I mean, we've actually got, it's quite difficult when you're sat there and you're waiting for it. We don't want to say British broadcasting, we want to say BBC, we want to say radar, we want to say JPEG, we want to say all sorts of different ones, maybe on the acronym. So how can we make that easier? So what we do is we go into our term store back here, and what we can do is if you find, where's BBC gone? It's just up the page. BBC. I've actually got another label here called BBC, and I can actually go into Building Schools Future. I've got BSF. I go to Laugh Out Loud. I don't have one, so all I'm going to do is click on LOL and save. I'm not sure that many people will have a LOL in their term store, but jump into my client, I can now put in LOL, and if the demo stuff's working, it is. I can actually now see that it says LOL or it says Laugh Out Loud. Let's make it easier for them. Let's try to find out that, you know what, Building Schools for the Future stands for BSF, LOL stands for Laugh Out Loud. So if they're doing some searching, they're doing their meta tagging, make it easy for yourself by putting in the acronym as well. Only thing I would recommend from that point of view is make sure that you haven't got the same acronym that means something else in the rest of the business. So does RM mean risk management in the whole of your organisation? So let's see if my Moodle's working. Let's do a refresh. I guess this is the problem when you run software that's built on PHP and built for Linux, and MySQL and Apache running on something else. That's not going to work, is it? It's most of the web, yeah. Well, that's cut my demo down by about 10-15 minutes, so I do apologise. Yes? Yeah. I don't know actually if it fits into the other label or not, if I'm honest. I've not tried that. I guess it might be one of those questions for Ask the Expert. Do apologise, I don't know the answer. Maximum exceeded. No, it's not going to play. I do apologise. There's actually more information on acronyms tomorrow with Steve Smith and Spence. They're going to talk us, maybe it's worth asking them the question there. So how many people here use Microsoft OneNote? Quite a lot of hands. That surprises me. Nobody here works for Birmingham City Council, do they? Before I slag them off. Good. So Building Skills for the Future, the project I work on, is all about making new creative ways for teaching methods so the kids can feel engaged in their lesson. It's not about building new buildings or making wonderful, nice-looking, fancy paintwork and all that kind of rubbish. It's about giving kids a way of educating that they actually find. I mean, they use Facebook every day, they use Twitter, they use also, that's what they want to be able to use. That's what SharePoint can provide for them. That's why I love SharePoint so much. I went to an induction day, which was a 20-minute, 20 PowerPoint presentation death. I sat there and I was bored witless when I sat there for this induction day. I hated every moment of it. And I sat there and I got my laptop and I'm sat there with my OneNote and I'm taking all my notes. I'm the only one out with my laptop. They've requested that I have phones turned off, don't check emails, turn your Blackberries off, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sat there taking all my notes, wonderful notes in my OneNote. And somebody comes and touched me and said, "Can you put your laptop away, please?" I'm like, "Well, hang on a minute. Why?" He says, "You're disturbing other people." He says, "I'm just taking notes on my laptop." He said, "We should have bought a pad and pen then." It's like, no. We're working on a £150 million project to transform education for kids, and you're telling me I've got to use pad and pen. Not a chance. Fortunately, I'd only been there 3 days and I didn't have the guts to tell him that. But the point is that it still winds me up now. I love OneNote. I don't know how many people have used OneNote. And I've got this little short video on what OneNote actually is. Let me just get this prepared. As everything crashed earlier on, different machine, comes the backup.
Remember how thrilled you were when you finally found the perfect place to put your keys when you came home? Always in the same place, always easily accessible? Now you can have the same sort of place for all your information. My name is Aicha, and I want to show you how Microsoft OneNote 2010 has made me a saner person since I started using it to keep my notes, ideas, meetings, all the information I need for work and home in one place. Here's what OneNote looks like. It's made up of notebooks. This one is where my team and I store information for a product roadshow we're planning. It's our one place to store all our thoughts, clippings, text we scan from books, things I find on the internet, maps, audio or video clips, anything we come across during our planning stage. And OneNote makes it easy to organize it all with pages and tabs just like a real notebook. Having all this information in one place is much more powerful for me than keeping it in my memory, and much more searchable than keeping it in my desk drawer or file cabinet. One thing that makes the content in OneNote so searchable is that I can create custom tags to help identify each type of information I'm storing. So for instance, each of these tabs here in my notebook holds ideas for a different state we'll be visiting on our roadshow. Using the contextual help in the ribbon at the top of the page, I've created tags to identify each topic type, so it's easy to immediately find what I'm looking for with just a click. And with OneNote Search, I can just type in what I'm looking for here. And the results show where my phrase comes up across multiple notebooks. The results are grouped by recent picks, titles of notebooks with that phrase in them, and body copy that includes that phrase. So it's simple to hover over the results and pretty much browse through my entire library of notebooks from one spot. Now let's talk about sharing notebooks. OneNote gives you anywhere access to your work, with phone, desktop, and browser capabilities all available out of the box. Since the last time I accessed this notebook, I can see right away there have been additions. What I haven't read is highlighted for me, and bolded tabs like these let me know they include content I haven't read before. Over here, I can access different page versions to see past versions that were edited by different people. So no matter where I am these days, I always have access to the one place I know I can put information, find information, and share information. Because I've got a place for everything and everything in its OneNote place. Thanks for joining me today.
Cool. It worked. Does anybody feel like they've not used OneNote before, mind giving it a go? A few nods. Somebody said to me from Microsoft about a year ago, 18 months ago, said, have you ever used OneNote before? I went, no. I said, look, try it. Just try it for a week, nothing more than that. If you don't like it, then that's fair enough, but you'll love it after a week. Don't do anything less, 1 week, and you'll be completely sold. So I thought we'll just have a quick look at the client before we actually see what one of the new web apps in SharePoint 2010 actually has as part of it. So, OneNote. So here's my acronym list that we had earlier on. I actually have a bit of information. These are all my notes that I've taken from the conference event. So I've got a couple of images that you might have seen so far, the web links that I use for my demos, and I've got that zip file, the zip file. So I can actually store my documents in there. You probably want to tell them not to store your documents in there because, of course, you want your documents in SharePoint. But there's a way around that. I'll get to that in a minute. Jumping to my other machine, down here, I have a tablet. I don't know if many people have played on a tablet before. So we get a pen. What I can do on here, just escape this. So I open up my OneNote. I've got a drawing here. This is actually a diagram from work. So if I'm in a training room, I've got a projector behind me, similar to how we had today, on where, you know what happens is the data sent from here, then it goes all the way up here, and then it creates the AD account, and all of a sudden it becomes a whole analytical kind of approach to how to see information. I can actually share that. I can send it to people. What I can also do is if I create a new page here, I've got writing, so I can actually go, I probably want a different pen than this. Welcome. So all of a sudden I've got all my notes that are actually based here. And if I jump to my whole OneNote session here, I can actually see all my notes that I've actually got for all my different sessions that I've actually been to, all my meetings that I've had. I can actually even print out documents. So here's a document that I've actually printed out. So I don't know if you've actually seen me go into File and Print, Send to OneNote. Great way of storing everything in one single place. Actually there. I have actually been given this as a demo laptop, and I actually want to keep it now. Just because it's so much easier to take notes, write things down. It does handwriting recognition, single place to hold it all. But of course, we've got one slight issue. It can be stored on the person's local desktop, and we don't particularly want that. So jumping over to the dodgy machine, what I've done is I've actually set up a document library here, and the default file type, when I click on New, is a OneNote. So what I'll do is I'll click on New, I'll click OK, and it's going to actually open up a new area in my OneNote. Here's the one that we showed earlier on, that's actually stored in SharePoint already. As it loads, give it a name. Demo, if I just move that over, we can actually see it's actually storing it within that document library. Now you think, why on earth would I want to store it? What's so important about storing it in SharePoint? Well, to me, that pad and pen can go missing at any time. Same way a laptop can go missing all the time. What if they leave? All those notes that they've been into meetings, all that kind of thing completely goes with them. You've got an electronic copy of it here, store it in a single area. Maybe they store it in their My Site. You can get it from their My Site, reset their password if they've left, or get the administrator to log into their profile. So they'll be able to do in SharePoint 2010. Unpacking still. Taking its time. So here's our brand new OneNote. I can say welcome, and I can do all my notes the way I like it to. I can do my normal wordy stuff. I can go off the internet. I can copy an image. That's the only image I can see, really. Copy I can paste my image in there. I actually find it very good when I was doing some work. When I, on some times, it must not do it in 2010, it'll actually give you the URL of the image. So if you've got a course and you've got kids and you need to know where that information's come from, you've copied that text from Wikipedia, what page of Wikipedia you've paid it from, it comes up at the bottom and shows it there. And if I just close that, it's already saved it back up to our SharePoint OneNote site. Let's do a quick refresh. There's our demo one that we've created earlier on. So I've actually uploaded some earlier on. So one thing that we actually mentioned was the ability to see it in OneNote web apps. So this is Office web apps. I don't think anybody's talked about web apps yet today. So we've got Word, we've got Excel, we've got PowerPoint, and we've got OneNote, all available in the browser, either within Internet Explorer, within Firefox and Safari. Microsoft won't claim it, but it does work also in Chrome. No, I don't think they're ever going to tell anybody it works in Chrome, are they? So here's the same OneNote library that we saw earlier on. We've got the acronyms list that we also saw earlier on. I can edit this online. I can just add D&B. I still don't know what D&B stands for. It stands for that. I can go in here. I can delete my image. It's great. Automatically saves it back to the site. But one thing we did say when we was in the client was that we had those three files, the Excel file, and 2 zip files. They can't be seen within the OneNote on the web apps. It's limited. It's same Word really. It's a very basic version of Word. You can obviously do your normal text. You can add a few images. You can't do mail merges. You can't do all the wonderful stuff that you can do in Excel within it. I did consider doing my PowerPoint presentation using the web apps on here, and I'm glad I didn't now, because everything just seems to have gone wrong. But that is OneNote. Does anybody feel like they're going to go along and try a few more things, give it a bit more of another go?
I have a concern about putting that on SharePoint.
Okay.
I came on the train to Eurostar and wanted to work on a presentation,
Yeah.
which I'd previously put on my site in France.
Yeah.
And I had check-in, check-out, and everything like that. And it wasn't on my laptop. It was on SharePoint.
Okay.
Not on Eurostar. So is that just because I check-in, check-out enabled on the front of the library?
If you just check in and check out, it's just going to check it and check it out on the actual website or on SharePoint itself. What you want to be looking at is use of SharePoint workspaces within SharePoint 2010. So it's actually an offline sync tool to be able to take things offline. I mean, I personally don't store my OneNote on SharePoint, if I'm honest, mainly because our internal SharePoint's rubbish and they won't let me anywhere near it. But I don't know why. It's awful. Just needs patching. That's internal politics. I actually use Mesh. Have you heard of Live Mesh? Microsoft Live Mesh? So Live Mesh, if I go onto my desktop here, I have all sorts of different folders and they're in blue. By the way, this photo is the volcano at the moment in Iceland. I saw that picture on Twitter today and I thought it was absolutely amazing. So these blue folders, and what they do is it automatically syncs them and puts them out up on the internet. So if I go onto my Mesh here, it's currently offline because I'm not synced. But what it does, it takes all those files, it sticks them in the cloud for me. I take that client, I install it on another PC, like this that I got on Friday. It downloads all those files for me. So I've got one folder on there, as you can just see down here, called OneNote. And I've actually got all my OneNote information in it. Be able to easily sync those things there. When you've got workspaces within your 2010 environment, you'll be able to take all that site offline and actually take it forward, and it'll be so much more easier to be able to actually do work. You'll be able to do stuff, changes to lists as well as just documents within workspaces as well. Well, I do apologise that my demo for Moodle didn't work. I've only spent about 2 weeks trying to get it working. Oh, there we go. Yay! SharePoint training course, we can actually see here we've actually got several different elements as we go along. So they've got to do the custom ribbon, 2010, it's going to be everywhere. Let's train them first, and we're going to do document management, announcements, calendars, lists, all the way down to requesting for SharePoint development. Maybe that's what you want a part of their training module. I don't know if you've seen the user adoption stuff provided by Combined Knowledge. That's really good. They've actually got some CBDs which are available, which will actually, unless you've actually taken the course and you've got the right number of answers, won't allow you to access your My Site, for example. So you can actually have to do the training before they can do that kind of permission. I believe the way it works, it puts them into a particular AD group when they've achieved it, and then that AD group has permission to actually access my sites. Personally, I really like that. Here's another one. So here's my resources. I'm going to add, so we've got a custom ribbon. We can upload files. We can add more web pages to it. But we can build in quizzes and that kind of thing. At the moment, there isn't a product that integrates with SharePoint 2010 directly like SharePoint Learning Kit did. But fingers crossed, there will be some products coming out sooner rather than later regarding that. So I do apologise my demo didn't quite work the way it wanted to. But thank you for at least coming. Appreciate it.